The Lunaverse, Episode 17 by Rainbow Double Dash. Symphony for Moon and Sun by Grass and Clouds 2. Chapter 3 Meeting in Canterlot. Lyra hadn't wanted to wait, but at Bonbon's urging, she accepted a 2-day delay as a compromise between leaving immediately and not going. So she written Octavia a long letter, telling her that she would probably be coming to visit. She also set up reservations at a hotel. She bought train tickets and made other necessary logistics arrangements. Soon, she was all set to take a week's journey to Canterlot. She considered asking the other elements for help, but there was nothing they could really do. If the symphony was really happening, Lyra was the only one with the necessary music skills to help Octavia, and if politics were involved, well, Trixie did have some knowledge of that field, but from what Lyra knew, her presence would likely just make them both targets of the nobles. Better to try to stay out of sight when she went to see Octavia. Lyra also did as much research as she could on the symphony, though, of course, she was limited by not having access to the Canterlot archives or the Music Academy archives. She couldn't get a score for the work in Ponyville, but she was able to dig up some old scholarly analysis of the work from ancient newspapers and journals. It was every bit as complicated as she remembered, and she spent hours locked in her room, studying the text and trying to work out the best approach to performing the piece, which was not to be performed. Finally, the day came. Bonbon received confirmation from the concert hall. Octavia was indeed slated to play the Symphony for Moon and Sun. The newspapers and magazines for Canterlot were buzzing with the news. Apparently, the vast majority of the court was now expected to attend, and the few remaining tickets were being sold at prices that even the rich could scarcely afford. "This may well be," one paper said, "the only chance in any of our lifetimes to hear the infamous piece as performed by a master of her craft." If it was a prank, it was one that had fooled the entire press corps. It was thus that Lyra found herself on the Ponyville train station, waiting for Bonbon for the 1 o'clock to Canterlot. Bonbon hugged Lyra goodbye. "Be careful," she urged. "Please." "I will." Lyra looked nervous, but resolute all the same. "I promise." The train arrived, and Lyra found herself en route to Canterlot. "Oh, what time is it?" "It's almost up," thought Octavia, but she only said, 5 minutes past 8. She'd been shut up in her practice room for the past 2 days, only leaving to grab hasty meals at a small, shabby restaurant whose single greatest virtue was that the staff didn't stare and whisper while she ate. Rather than take the time to go home to sleep, she slept on the practice room floor. For grooming, she used an old, forgotten public bathroom in the castle. She knew, intellectually, that she didn't have any idea how to play the piece in a way that would please Luna, but the relentless practice at least allowed her to distract herself from that issue. But it wasn't much of a distraction, because the practicing wasn't going well. Octavia had always prided herself on her ability to perform without letting her own emotions influence her music. But her turmoil was such that even she found it a chore to concentrate on what she was doing. She was slowly mastering the sequences of notes, intricate rhythms, multiple voices, which stretched to the very limits of the cello's range, but she was completely unable to connect with the piece. It might as well have been a random assortment of notes for all a listener would be able to tell. Now she was on her way back from the restaurant, slowly climbing the stairs to get to her practice room up in the tower. The pony who had asked her time, a youngest pastess maid, was literally the only pony she'd spoken with besides her waiter since her agent had quit. In other circumstances, she could have seen the silence as a kind of vacation. As it was, though, it was only a further reminder of what she had to look forward to after the performance was over. "Enough whining! Another full! Back to work," she thought. She wanted to go over the first movement several more times before the end of the day. It was the one that would introduce the main voices, so it would need to be as clear as possible, while maintaining all the ornaments and intricacies, of course. As she got through that, she could start the second movement. The third and fourth would have to wait a day or two, as she still had no idea where to even start with writing an ending. So I should begin as soon as I can, she muttered. As she entered through the practice room and locked the door behind her, she picked up her cello and hefted the bow and began to play. And what followed could, technically, be called music. The first voice, was Octavia understood to represent the equestrian citizens, began and continued for a while, representing that the ponies were doing things. It was happy, indicating things were going well. Then came the second voice, Celestia, and she also did things. Now she had to get ready for the third voice, Luna, who would have things to do, and "This isn't working!" thought Octavia, as she tried all the harder to push past her own fears and worries and other feelings and find the emotion in the piece. It was there. It probably wasn't even hard to find. If the stakes weren't quite so high, she'd probably be able to grasp it easily. But as it was, she heard a tone from behind her, just in front of the chamber's door. Turning in disbelief, that wall was perfectly soundproof, and no music could penetrate it. She saw nothing in front of the door, but on the other side of it, through the window, was a green hoof waving around. What? Octavia went to the door, opened it, and could only stare at the pony who was waiting for her. Lyra! As Octavia approached the door, Lyra tried to push aside her stress and frustration. It wasn't easy, but she did try. It had taken forever to find the cellist, for one thing. She had been home. She hadn't been there in over a day, according to her neighbors, as he wasn't in any of her usual practice rooms or restaurants either. She looked for hours before looking into finding a pony that could help her. A tallish white unicorn who said he had been seeing a green mare with a cello in one of the Canterlot Castle's towers. Then came the joys of actually getting into the castle. She could understand why she had to sign in, be scanned, and even searched. But it took forever! She tried to speed things up by saying she was a friend of Representative Lunamoon. In a technical sense, this could be considered element-related business, after all. But then things seemed to drag on even longer, to the point where Lyra wondered if Trixie had somehow offended a bigwig in the guards. It was past dinner by the time she cleared to move on. Then, lastly, she had to actually find Octavia. No pony that she asked seemed to know where Octavia's practice room was, as Lyra had been expecting, so she had to search by hoof all the tower rooms that weren't marked as being used for something else. By the time she came to Octavia's tower, she was quite exhausted, and by the time she found Octavia's room, she was ready for a cold drink and a long nap. But she found it at last. She verified this by standing up as high up as she could on her hind legs, allowing her to just barely peek through the window and see the back of Octavia's head. Sighing with relief, Lyra knocked. Of course, the room was soundproofed. After about a solid minute of pounding away, none of which Octavia seemed to hear, and Lyra couldn't hear the cellist either, even though her motions indicated she was playing a very loud piece, Lyra decided to go for Plan B. Summoning a magical music note wasn't too difficult. So, she focused the spell on a spot just through the door, then cast. Unfortunately, that was how she found out the door had an anti-magic spell, probably to prevent magical eavesdropping. So Lyra had to cast the spell again, this time putting in enough raw power to push through the magical barrier. Quite a bit, as it turned out. That left Lyra dizzy and spent, but at least it got the cellist's attention. As Octavia turned and approached the door, Lyra attempted to once more to banish her weariness. She was here to talk to Octavia. Her own problems at getting here didn't matter. She apologized for her disheveled state, and Octavia opened the door, and Lyra completely forgot about her day. Physically, Octavia looked fine, like she had just woken up from a nap. Her coat was smooth and unruffled, her back unbowed, her legs straight. Even her mane and tail had retained their characteristic smoothness despite the circumstances. But there was still something off about the cellist. Something indicating a sort of exhaustion. No, not exhaustion. Hopelessness. It was her eyes, Lyra decided. Her eyes were wandering all over, like she couldn't be bothered to focus on anything for more than a second or two. Lyra had never seen Octavia despair before. but she knew that she was seeing. Octavia took great pride in facing any difficulty without flinching away from it. She scorned a weakness that might make other ponies cringe or look away. And now, the mere act of talking to Lyra seemed almost beyond her, sending her searching for some escape. Lyra's stomach turned. Tavi. Lyra? The zealous managed. Octavia, what happened to you? It couldn't just be that practicing was tiring her. Lyra had seen Octavia go for days without rest to master difficult pieces. Even then, she retained her fundamental sense of poise. Octavia seemed spent on a deeper level somehow. This was new, and not a good sign. Lyra, what are you doing here? Asked Octavia. Why did you come? I got an invitation to your next concert. Lyra paused. Octavia, what's going on? Why were you playing the Symphony for Moon and Sun? Octavia looked away. It doesn't matter why, Lyra. You know that. You can't play that piece. You know the history, and yet I must. I cannot cancel on Luna herself. Lyra smiled, but it was bitter. There's no way out of this. If you came to persuade me to take one, I am sorry that your trip was in vain. I hope you have a safe trip back to Ponyville. She moved to shut the door, but Lyra stuck out a hoof and blocked her for closing it. Octavia, talk to me. I need to know what's going on. Octavia shrugged. I'm paying for the mistake I made in betraying you. That's all there is to it. I don't deserve your pity. No pony deserves this! I said I don't deserve your pity! Said Octavia in a slightly stronger voice. Don't need to lie to me. Lyra paused, thinking of what to do. She had to find out what was really going on. How long has it been since you've had a decent meal? I ate 20 minutes ago. I said a decent meal, not whatever junk the local canteen serves. I know how you get. Lyra, you know I don't care about things like that with the music. Well, I do! Lyra smiled. Let's just get something real to eat, Tavi. First of all, please, my name is Octavia. And second, I don't have the time. If I don't have any hope of mastering this work, I cannot spend the time it would take to order food in a fancy sit-down restaurant. You won't master it if you're exhausted either. You taught me that physical condition is a crucial component of any performance. That includes a proper diet. Lyra went over to Octavia and steered her out the door. Come on, we'll be an hour. Octavia hesitated, then followed Lyra. Let us turn back to clock, shall we? To 100 years after Corona's first banishment. To the first attempt. Concerti Brillante. Concerti Brillante looked about the crowd and grinned. This was going to be the performance of his career. Finding that score had been a huge stroke of luck. 2 weeks before the grandest celebration of the decade, him on deck to perform, and with nothing whatsoever to play. He'd been starting to feel a slight sense of panic, but he just did what he always did when he had no inspiration. He went to the music library, slid into the back vault, and once searched amongst the old and forgotten manuscripts. There were a lot of unsorted, unshelled, practically unknown music in that vault. When the chords burned and froze in the fury of the battle between Luna and Corona, the music library had taken a hit from some spell or other and had been smashed flat. A lot of scores had been destroyed, and in ensuing panic, followed by the 12 somewhat odd years that had followed, the near abandonment of the capital, and general chaos, no pony had bothered to keep track of the music, old or new. Now that the land was finally healing, that was changing. But until about 20 years ago, most music, whether found in the records of Canterlot or written fresh, had just been dumped in the library's blank vault, waiting for the day when ponies could go through and catalog everything. Forgotten works of the past. Was there any better inspiration? And as soon as Concerti had seen the score, he knew this was the piece to play. Even setting aside that it was a lost work of the great maestro, the theme of the work was perfectly suited to the celebration. The party was to be a gigantic thank you to Luna, a night to honor her victory over her psychotic sister, and her saving of every pony's life. And this was a piece about that very subject. Perfection! Concerti raised his bow. Looking out at the crowd, he saw, to his satisfaction, that every important pony was there. The industrial leaders, at least insofar as Equestria had a real industry, the race ponies, night court nobles, and of course Luna herself. She would, Concerti thought, be so pleased to hear this rendition of the piece. She might as well appoint him the greatest musician on the land on the spot. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "thank you for your attention. The piece I will play has not been performed in a very long time. Though the date isn't exact, judging by the style, I would estimate it was written about 20 years after the victory that we are all gathered here to celebrate. To the best of my knowledge, it was never played subsequently. I am pleased to present to you this one-last work from the great composer Maestro, the Symphony for Moon and Sun." Luna had a very odd expression. Tense, nervous, Concerti thought. She looked like she was worried. Well, that made a little sense. Maestro had been friends from Luna, he heard, and she was probably worried that he bought her companion's piece. But that wasn't a problem. He was Concerti Brillante, and he had unparalleled musical ability. He could play anything. The piece went great. Concerti grinned as he drew the fourth movement to a close. This was a tricky part. He hadn't been able to find a score for the fifth movement, so he had to write it himself. But he felt he'd done Luna justice. So he played. It was a strong, blasting movement, but with enough skill to prevent it from becoming a wall of sound. Luna's theme rose its strength. This was the point in the story. Luna attained the power of the elements and beat back at her sisters. Celestia's theme failed helplessly, but what could it do? Luna was righteous and strong. That was what mattered. All Celestia had was her madness. Strength, he thought, letting his feelings flow into his music. Yes, strength. That word, more than any other, describes Princess Luna. Let this song be a testament to her great might. Let her realize that I recognize her vast power and pay tribute to it. Luna's theme swelled even more, seeming to strain the limits of Concerti's range. And then, with a dramatic cadence, "Hi!" moved up and crushed Coronas. There was no hesitation in it, no sign of weakness. Princess Luna Equestria would fight evil and win handily. That was who she was. The piece finished on a glorious rising section, celebrating Luna's victory and triumph over the wicked day. Concerti played the final note, brought his bow up, and bowed. There was no pause. Instead, every pony was staring at Luna. Luna looking, Concerti thought, like she probably did when fighting Corona. She was wreathed in some kind of blue fire, and her eyes blazed with wrath. "Is that," she said in a low voice, "what thou thinkest of me and my sister? Is that what thou hast brought me here to listen to?" Her voice was rising. "How dare they!" My great princess," gasped Concerti. Luna looked around. "Wait! Come back! It is wrong!" "Do not speak to me," hissed Luna. "If that is all thou thinkest I am, that is all I need to be. Should thy life be threatened by some monster, Concerti, I shall defend thee." She turned, eyes flashing. "And should that not happen, I never wish to hear thee again." And with a flash of magic, she was gone. Chapter 4. Old Friends. "Octavia, please, tell me what's going on. I'm worried about you." They were at a fancy restaurant, concealed in a back booth. The salads had arrived, and Octavia was eating, firmly, yet clearly still hungry. It had been, Lyra thought, far too long since Octavia had eaten a full meal. "There is little to tell. The Duke discovered I was helping Lunamoon." Octavia sighed. "At least I surmise that is what happened. All I know is that a few days after contacting her about Moonlit, he would not see me, and I found myself scheduled to play Symphony for the Moon and Sun. It was in every paper and on every bulletin board in the city. An impersonator of me even gave a press conference and swore that she would not only play the piece, but move the princess to tears." There was no possible way to head off that lie before every pony in the city believed it. Wait, why did you help Trixie? I thought you hated her. I do. It was not for her sake. I was convinced by a certain friend that I might be able to do something for you, to make up in some small way for my betrayal. I wrote Luna Moon to tell her when Greengrass was sending agents to Ponyville. That was how she knew of Flim and Flam, and also Moonnet. Octavia paused. Please, do not think that this was some sort of act of moral courage on my part. Luna Moon was blackmailing me anyway. Lyra paused. There was a strange note in Octavia's voice. Was he lying? If so, she's really out of practice. Was that why you were helping us? Because Trixie was blackmailing you? Yes. Octavia. Octavia blushed and looked away. All right. I was not really planning on giving in to Luna Moon at first. She lacks the political acuity to successfully blackmail Tree Stump. Well, as I said, I was convinced that I could perhaps do something to help you. And Greengrass is punishing you for that? Lyra shook her head. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I could have been out here. No. Lyra blinked. It was the first time she had heard real strength in Octavia's voice since arriving in Canterlot. Lyra, first of all, there is nothing you can do. Second, even if there was, I would not ask you to suffer for my mistakes. I would not be in this position had I not taken Greengrass as my Patreon. That I am suffering is no pony's fault but mine, and I will not ask you to share in that. She paused. I am at least not so corrupt as to try to reduce my misery by sharing it with another. Not knowing how to respond to that second point, Lyra tackled the first. Can't you just withdraw? The princess will be attending. If I cancel now, I will have snubbed her. It would be almost as bad as if I played the piece. Then, get sick, break your foreleg or something, or curse. I know, there's a plant near Ponyville called Poison Joke. It wears off in a week, no long-term offense, but during that week you'll be cursed. You won't be able to perform. Or, if you don't want to do that, we could damage the theater or... Lyra! Octavia looked down. I am aware I could forestall my fall for a short while with some gimmick tale. I could feign a terrible illness, a family emergency, vandalize the theater, have Vinyl give out one for many rave sessions. I have many options, but I won't. Setting aside that Greengrass will not let me off that easily. That I know now I cannot hope to beat him at his own game. I am only in this position in the first place because of my own dishonesty and dishonor. I am done with that. I will accept my punishment and try not to wriggle away from it. I will either perform or formally cancel. I would not lie. Again, there's that honesty bit. You know, Octavia would make a good element of honesty one day. Lyra knew that Octavia was hard on herself. It was, the Grey Mare had explained, how she became such a capable musician. She did not accept the excuses that other musicians did, about small errors being acceptable due to things like tuning, or environment, or exhaustion in the musician. But this was extreme, even for her. Lyra felt a sense of burning hatred toward Greengrass, who had messed up her friend so badly. Octavia, I'm going to find some way to help you. Octavia smiled, but it was a sad smile. I cannot be helped. And, Lyra, please, I do not want you to lie to yourself, even about me. After what I did, we both know that I am in no way deserving of your aid. I betrayed you, and I must live with the consequences. Lyra didn't know what to say. The cellist rose, putting a large stack of bits on the table. I must return to practicing. Farewell, Lyra. She paused, then bowed her head. For what little it is worth, I am sorry for what I did. Lyra could only watch as Octavia left. The Lyras exited the restaurant a few minutes later, trying to figure out what to do next. She couldn't just abandon Octavia, but the mayor clearly didn't want her involved. If the cells wouldn't accept her help, what could she do? Nobody would blame me if I just went home, she thought, slightly bitterly. Octavia wouldn't let me help her. And they all tell me that I don't want to owe her anything. I do want to rescue her, but she won't let me. I mean, I could be just as useless to her at home with Bon Bon.
I say, wasn't that Octavia Philharmonica?
Oh my gosh, it's Fancy Pants. Cue the music! Hallelujah! 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 I'm sorry, I'm forced to play that every time I see Fancy Pants in effect. Lyra glanced over her shoulder to see a large white unicorn. After a moment, she recognized him as the unicorn who had told her that Octavia was at the palace. Yes? The unicorn smiled at her.
Ah, yes, I remember you. You're that friend of hers that was looking for her earlier, aren't you? Well, I am glad to see that you found her.
He smiled. Thanks. Not that I think I did any good.
You look familiar.
The unicorn's smile was white in recognition.
Ah, I know. I attended your concert a few months back. Your debut. Miss Heartstrings, is it? Some of the best Lyra music I've ever heard.
He bowed a little. Normally, Lyra loved it when ponies complimented her music. But she was too distracted and worried about Octavia demands more than a polite thank you.
Are you and Miss Philharmonica friends?
She was my mentor, actually, at the music academy.
And now you've come to support her before her first concert before the princess.
The unicorn sounded genuinely pleased at that.
Such a splendid display of loyalty to your teacher. I suppose it's easy for a pony like me to become cynical, what with all the politicians in town. It is truly heartening to see today's up-and-coming stars demonstrate such a sterling character.
Lyra felt a little embarrassed. Thanks. I didn't catch your name?
Oh, I apologize. My name is Fancy Pants.
Lyra thought. The same one who judged that farming competition in Trottingham?
Why, yes. Were you there?
No, but you helped a friend of mine out of some trouble. Fancy Pants, according to Trixie, was a daffy, slightly dimmed, fashion-obsessed millionaire who hung around the court and was friends with Luna. He didn't do much politically, and had no real official position besides being an advisor to the throne. But he was active in Canterlot's social life, and was always hosting a charity ball or some other event. Recently, he judged the farming competition in Trottingham, and helped Carrot Top find her way out of a moment before she was disqualified for tardiness.
Carrot Top was very grateful, wasn't she? Ah, the brilliant carrot farmer. I keep meaning to visit her farm, but, well, there's always so much to do around here. Balls, galas, and I simply can't miss them. But anyway, I'm sure your presence here will mean a lot to Miss Philharmonica.
I hope so.
Will you be helping her prepare?
I wanted to, but I think she wants to get ready for it alone.
Are you sure? Caesar's a proud sort. Perhaps she just doesn't want to admit to needing help. I know I've been guilty of that once or twice. Ha ha ha!
Fancy Pants laughed.
Perhaps you've been in the same situation?
Lyra smiled. Maybe a little.
I'm sure she would appreciate if you helped her, even if she says she doesn't want it now. After all, you're quite a good musician yourself.
Fancy Pants bowed again.
I need to get going. I'm scheduled for a dessert tasting in an hour, and I can't possibly miss it. But I am glad we met again. Have a good night, Miss Heartstrings. I look forward to seeing you at the concert.
He trotted off into the night. Lyra sat on a bench and thought. Fancy Pants' comments about unrequested and unwanted help reminded her of a big recital she'd given in her first year at the academy. Her first big recital, actually, having still been somewhat new to the demands of the academy. She underestimated just how much time would be needed to learn the music, and had subsequently been forced to practice for very long days and skip on sleep to catch up. This made her both short-tempered and somewhat despairing, as she began to panic that she would botch the recital and reveal herself to be incompetent. Octavia had taken it all in stride, though, and hadn't even seemed to notice her increasing grumpiness. She just kept Lyra threw it all to pieces, as if nothing else mattered. In the end, Lyra had almost missed the recital, though she finally mastered the music late the evening before. She had a nervous feeling that she'd screw up if she had tried playing in public. She decided that she was going to be sick to avoid having to play and embarrass herself, and had even turned off her alarm clock. But Octavia, upon finding that Lyra hadn't woken at her usual time, got to her room and hauled her out of bed. Despite Lyra's protests and demands that Octavia leave her alone, the cells had dumped her in the shower and informed her that she would be attending and performing at that recital if Octavia had to personally carry her there and strap her hose to the stage. Seeing it was hopeless, Lyra composed herself as best she could and went to the recital. She does spectacularly, of course. Octavia had assured during her practice sessions that she knew the piece. Right, Lyra thought. She didn't give up on me, even when I flat out told her to. I'm not going to give up on her either. She nodded. Okay, plan's still the same. I must know how to help her. She began to trot down the streets, still thinking furiously. Octavia's brilliant, but I've come up with insights she hadn't before. And with her eyes so frazzled as she is, I bet she could really use another pony to look at the piece and give her insights. Besides, this is my specialty as a bard. Telling histories and lessons via music is what I do. She smiled. The Music Academy's library is still opening. I bet they'll have a copy at the store. For what it is worth, I think you did the right thing. Octavia peered up at the tower ceiling, but knew it was hopeless. The surprisingly talkative cat burglar had come by the tower a few times now, but Octavia had never seen her unless she let herself be seen. Thank you, she managed. Do you regret it? No. Octavia learned it was basically pointless to put up any pretense against this mare. She seemed to have an uncanny ability to detect when Octavia was being evasive. By contacting Trixie, I helped Lyra. It was the right thing to do. See? I told you you could do something for her. Octavia would have shrugged if she hadn't been lying down. It will be good for the music world that at least one of us will have a career, see? Are you giving up so soon? The mayor sounded disappointment. You, one of the finest musicians of the generation? The finest musicians of other generations have tried and failed to pay this piece. I'm not so arrogant to think myself superior to all of them. One may have succeeded. The composer Maestro. Maybe. The records are lost. Even as he did, Maestro had the true ending, and, well, she is said to have talent unsurpassed in the intervening millennia. Perhaps Luna only hates some recent renditions because they compare unfavorably, however slightly, to the original. The burglar was silent for a while. Then he said, Do you know what you will do after? I suppose I will return to Chennai. I have enough money to hold me over until I can. Even she could not quite prevent her voice from breaking a bit. Start a new career? As? I don't know. I've been told I have substantial physical strength, so maybe something involving tilting or moving, or whatever strong ponies do. Or I could leave the country. Another lands where notice this taste is not so powerful. I can still perform. Octavia. The sailors heard the burglar leap down and lightly touch the ground, though she moved incredibly quietly. Octavia could still hear her. Listen to yourself. Do you honestly think you deserve this? Octavia hesitated. At last she said, Yes. Had I succeeded, it would be Lyra's life which would have been ruined. There was no response. Then she heard a hostess near her head. After all the work you have put in, all the hours and sacrifices, how can you honestly think that it is right that all be destroyed? I thought you valued your ability more than that. She trailed off, then shook her head. The burglar's words were tempting. She had to be stronger than that. It was hard, especially when the burglar visited her so often. But she didn't want to lose focus. Lyra Heartstrings is one of the most loyal and noble ponies I have ever known. Her musical talent is beyond compare. She had literally saved the world, and it was her who I betrayed. If I forgave myself this error, it would be like saying she was not valuable enough to care about, that whether she prospered or perished was irrelevant. Then why does she worry about you? She knows what you did. She is kind and loyal to a fault. She is letting our prior relationship blind her to my more recent transgressions. I think, though, I have disabused her of those notions now. I do not believe she will return tomorrow. I have taught her to be honest, even about me. And after my explanation tonight, I do not believe she will overlook my betrayal any longer. Octavia paused. I honestly appreciate you trying to console me, but I could no more forget my treason than I could forget a missed note. And I think we have been over this multiple times. Wow, Lyra does also sound like a kind mare. You know, Octavia, I bet she would make a good element of kindness. In case you people who are listening are wondering, yes! Music of Ponyville is coming! What do you think is premiering after the next story? Yes, the burglar's voice said, bright and kind. My response will not change. I'll keep going over it, said the burglar just from behind her, until you understand. Then she dashed past Octavia and was out the window. One thing, she called from the outside. Suppose, despite all you said, she comes back tomorrow. You won't chase her away, will you? Octavia hesitated. I can't. I mean, she won't. She has to see how... But what if she does? Then no, of course not. If she wants her here, I won't have her removed. But that's what you mean. But splendid. The voice sounded happy. Then Octavia heard that weird sound of footsteps scampering down the terror wall. The vertical wall. Octavia listened to her go, then turned away. She wished the burglar wouldn't come so often. Always made things so confusing. Octavia awoke the next morning to the sound of a lyra. But the room is soundproof. Oh, it must be Lyra again with her magic. The tune sounded familiar, and Octavia slowly realized it was from the first movement of the symphony. The entrance to Luna's theme. It sounded misty and hard to pin down, but retained a regal strength. Gorgeous. Octavia slowly got to her hooves and turned around, and opened the door. Lyra was sitting there on the floor, strumming her lyre, eyes shut and horn glowing brightly. The cellist wanted to interrupt her, but she wasn't capable of stopping such a beautiful section of music. She could only stand and watch. A few minutes later, Lyra finished the theme and opened her eyes. She was flushed with effort. It must have taken quite a bit of effort to push through the music through the silencing spells on the door, but she was still grinning merrily. What do you think? In one night, asked Octavia, you mastered it to that extent? Incredible. Well, it took a bit of work. But hey, I thought you might like a little music to wake up to. Isn't it awesome? Sublime, said Octavia, with the voice of an experienced and relentlessly honest music critic. Beyond compare. So, Lyra hopped to her hooves. She tapped a stack of pages on the floor, the copy of the score she'd gotten from the library. How would you like me to help you learn the symphony for Moon and Sun? Octavia stared in confusion. Why is she helping me? She has to know I stabbed her in the back. Then she bowed her head. The reason why was not important. At this point, she was just grateful to have a friend who would stick with her even in these circumstances. I would like nothing more.